Nakakalalaman po mga kabayan ay nag-viral ang isang video ng isang Koreano na nang bastos, ng punit, tinapakan at dinuraan ang watawat ng Pilipinas. Hindi nakapagtimpi ang isang Briton na may pusong Pinoy at nanawagan ito sa Korean government na dapat mabigyan ng leksyon ang binatang ito. Panoorin natin mga kabayan ang iba pang mga detalye sa video ito.
To say this, so I don't know how to do this, but I'm absolutely outraged. I've just been sent a link this morning to a video made by two Korean young men, maybe students, where they disrespected the Philippine flag. I understand the context, I understand the cancel Korea and the hashtags and the bashing and everything else. I do understand that there's some history to this, and I understand there was a Korean actor who was involved, or Korean drama or something like that. I understand this has been going on for a long time. However, it doesn't give any excuse whatsoever for these two Korean young men to jump on the bandwagon. It doesn't give any excuse whatsoever for these men to disrespect the Philippine flag. When they spat on the national flag of the Philippines, this act is a disgusting outrage. This act defacing the flag of the Philippines. They spat on the flag with contempt. I know this is a drawing of the flag, if you like, and this is something that maybe they've drawn, but the fact is, it's still the flag of the Philippines. People have died, people have lost their lives defending that flag, and that flag is only held in the highest esteem by millions of people around the world, not only Filipino citizens, but also to all of us who love the Philippines very much, to all of us foreigners who are married to people from the Philippines. We have Philippine families, Philippine children, relatives, to all of us. This disrespecting of the flag is utterly shameful. Not only did they spit upon the flag of the Philippines, they also ripped it up into pieces, and then the last part of the video was stepping on the flag. I don't know what laws there are regarding social media in Korea, but I have to say this disrespectful act requires some kind of retribution, some kind of sanction. These two young men have not only brought themselves to shame, but they have brought the entire Korean people to embarrassment. These young men are not Korean. These young men do not represent the Korean people. The Korean people are a loving, caring, wonderful race. The Korean people are very respectful. You know, they would bow when they would meet each other. They would show absolute respect to their elders, and like Filipinos, they have much respect for other people. So these two young men do not respect Korea. They do not demonstrate Korean values. And you know, it was heart-wrenching when they were ripping that piece of paper with the image of the Philippine flag. It was like they were ripping apart people's lives. It was like they were ripping apart people's hearts. It was like they were destroying everything that people have ever believed in. So they must understand what they have done. They must understand the hurt that they have brought to the Filipino people. They must understand the hurt that they have brought to foreigners around the world who are married to Filipinos. And they really finally must understand the hurt, the embarrassment, and the upset they must have brought to the Korean people. I know that many on social media, many Koreans have already apologized over this Korean issue. I know that many Koreans on Twitter have already said they are sorry to the Filipino people and they love the Filipino people. I know there are many Koreans studying in the Philippines. I know that K-pop is very popular, K-dramas, and I know the Korean people are very, very grateful for the people of the Philippines. So these young men must say sorry. Not only must they say sorry, they must also receive some kind of sanction. I'm calling on the Korean authorities and the Korean government to speak to these young men and educate these young men on their disgusting actions. You know, the Filipino people are not a revengeful people. The Filipino people are not people who hold grudges. But believe me, I can tell you, until the end of time, there are always going to be people who remember this wicked, vile act. There are always going to be people who remember what these two Korean young men did. So many Filipinos idolize K-pop and they idolize BTS and they idolize Korean dramas. And yet these two young men have really brought shame to the country. And I really do hope they get appropriately dealt with. I'm sorry to make this issue, and I'm sorry to have taken a long time to have recorded this video, but I watched it online about a week ago on Facebook, and I've been thinking very carefully whether I should respond or not. There was a while where I decided not to respond, and I decided to treat it with the contempt that it deserved. I tried to ignore it. I thought, these two silly idiots, they don't deserve the attention. They don't deserve me even mentioning it. But the more I think about it, the more that I watch about it, when they spitted on the national flag of the Philippines, when they ripped the flag of the Philippines into small pieces, I could not let this pass. You know, I'm very, very proud to be married to a Filipina. I'm very, very proud to have a Filipino family. But I remember about 8 or 10 years ago that I was invited to the Lord Mayor's show by the Philippine Embassy. And I was able to parade the streets of the city of London. And I was able to wave the Philippine flag. I have to say, holding the Philippine flag and waving it was the proudest moment of my life. So while these two Korean young men are disrespecting the flag, there are others around the world, hundreds of thousands of others, not just myself. There are others around the world who have only the deepest respect for the Philippine flag. They understand the sacrifices, they understand the people who have lost their lives, they understand the soldiers. The Filipinos had a really, really harsh treatment in the past by foreigners, and they gave their lives to defend the Philippine flag. So when these two idiots decided to draw a picture of the Philippine flag and colour it in, they have to understand the consequences of their actions. But when these two idiots did that, you know, they brought disgrace. They brought disgrace to their families. They brought disgrace to their friends. This is a serious issue. People say that it's just these two Koreans trying to bring attention on themselves. But I think it's much more than that. You could see from their faces, you know, I've watched that video so many times this morning, and you could see from their faces that they showed utter contempt for the Philippines. They showed utter contempt for the Filipino people. It's like they were spitting on every single Filipino around the world. It was like they were ripping the hearts out of every single Filipino. And you know, people might say that I'm overreacting. I disagree, because I have the right. I have the right to defend my family. I have the right to defend my Filipino friends. I have the right to defend the Philippine flag. And I'm most upset, I'm most aggrieved. It really, not only did it rip the heart out of the Filipino people, but it also ripped out my heart to see these two young men stamping on the Philippine flag and spitting on the Philippine flag was absolutely shameful. So finally, before I end this video, I would call on these two young men to make a heartfelt apology if they have not already done so. I would call on these two young men to in some way make some kind of retribution, or make some kind of official apology, or do something to negate the utter shame that they have brought to others. I hope that they maybe are able to do some charity work, or make some kind of donation, or support the Philippines in some way. A lesson needs to be learnt by these people.
At siya na nga po mga kabayan, ano masasabi niyo sa ginawang pambabastos ng binatang Koreanong ito? Mag-comment lamang po. Maraming salamat!